Hello, friends, and welcome back to another round of stories about entitled people. Today's story dives into a family torn apart by one narcissistic sister's neglect. She lied, manipulated, and let her kids live in filth until her brother uncovered the truth and helped their father take the children away for good. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. All right, let's get into it. I spent my fixed income to clothe my nephews. Their mother's reaction told me everything. Just to preface, my ex-brother-in-law did take the kids away from my sister. She's a narcissist and a master manipulator, and probably would have had no problem lying in court to get her way were it not for the potential evidence against her being so overwhelmingly bad. Her ex took the kids and didn't bring them back once he was positive she couldn't do a damn thing about it, and soon the court gave him majority custody. My sister only gets to see her kids about 2 days a month and some holidays. This particular incident goes back to winter 2023, before my sister was evicted from the family property. At that time, her boyfriend had recently died in a car accident that quite possibly wasn't an accident. Technically, she'd just broken up with the guy because he cheated on her, and she repeatedly cried to me that she's not a cheater herself, which is an outright lie, as she had 3 affairs that we know of, while still married to her ex-husband. And she still thinks I don't know. But by that time, she was barely home 2 nights a week. My parents and I were the ones taking care of and paying to feed her kids because she wasn't coming home to feed them. She'd call her kids and ask them what they wanted for dinner, then wouldn't even show up. Our mother got mad at her and over text told her she'd abandoned her children, and my sister verbatim answered back, "LOL, no I didn't." She never grew out of her teenage mentality. Even after having 3 kids and her husband joining the military to better support them, she was still acting like a teenager. My mother and I got in touch with my ex-brother-in-law to tell him everything because my sister had her kids so brainwashed that they didn't even tell him much. He made them tell him everything. And any good clothes my nephews had, they would only keep at their father's house because they didn't want them torn up by the dogs or smelling like dog crap. I found out my nephews had no winter clothes at my sister's trailer because my youngest nephew woke me up on an early November morning to ask for a ride to school because he'd missed the bus. And he was at my door in 39 degrees, shivering in nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, and his shoes were falling apart. I asked him where his coat was, and he said he didn't have one anymore. While I was driving him to school, I told him I was going to buy him a coat, and he literally said, "I'm not that cold." And I said, "Dude, I'm looking at you shivering right now." His shoes were so bad he could barely walk in them. He had to do this limp forward moonwalk shuffle because the bottoms of his shoes were coming apart. I superglued them back together that night, and the next day I went out and bought him a coat at a thrift store, and he was wearing it to school right away. Then on the weekend, I took him out clothes shopping and practically bought him a whole wardrobe. He didn't even have decent socks. He was having to use socks from his brothers, and even his mother. I bought him socks, then I took him to a certain thrift store with great prices and bought him a pair of good black sneakers, 2 or 3 long-sleeve shirts, 2 sweatshirts, 3 pairs of pants because he had nothing but summer shorts, and a pair of gloves and a knit cap. We rushed everything into the washing machine, and he was wearing that stuff to school that Monday. The following weekend, I took my middle nephew out and bought him new socks too, as well as about the same amount of thrift store clothes. He still wears the green hoodie I got him back then. I bought him several pairs of pants, several shirts and sweatshirts, and a big, thick coat, which he really liked. And he was wearing that stuff ASAP too. The only thing he didn't need was shoes. I'm on a fixed income, and this was not very long before Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I spent about $200 on clothes for those kids because they needed it. My eldest nephew was already living with his dad full-time, so he was fine. I also lent my youngest nephew a Timber Ridge camping cot just so he'd have a decent bed. His tiny room in the trailer had a couch bed previously, but moisture and dogs just destroyed it. I also bought the kid a sleeping bag because he wasn't sleeping well due to the cot getting cold on the underside. I ended up getting blankets and pillows for both of those kids. And after my sister was evicted, we cleaned out the trailer and found out she not only had a brand new sleeping bag in storage, she also had a hoard of unused blankets hidden under her bed. Oh, we were so mad. She let her kids be cold when she had that stuff the whole time. The summer of 2023, All three of my nephews were allowed to live around the yard in tents, which they found preferable to living in the trailer with their mom, her boyfriend, and the stinky dogs. I ran power cords from my house to all three of their tents and got all three of those kids fans and ice coolers. I lent two of them camping cots to sleep on, and I also let the oldest stay in my camper trailer from time to time. When telling people this stuff, the first words out of their mouths are usually, "You're a good uncle." Meanwhile, my sister was busy drinking, partying, fighting with her POS boyfriend, and making trouble for all of us. We worked in secret with my ex-brother-in-law to make sure those kids were safe, and he took them that December. And then he took my sister back to court, and before anyone points it out, I and my parents are very remorseful for not taking action sooner. But my sister had us all mentally beat down. She's a chronic manipulator that makes up stuff and then spreads lies. She had people all over the area believing the stuff she said about our parents. My parents couldn't go out to the local restaurant without getting side glances from people. But after we kicked out my sister, all that stopped. She was poisoning everyone against our parents, and she wonders why we had enough of her. Edit. I forgot to add what my sister's reaction was to my buying her kids clothes. She actually complained that the clothes I got for her kids made them dress more like me, which is BS because they didn't look different from anything else those kids would wear. And then she just seemed to ignore it. I never even got any thanks from her about it. She just swept it under the rug and continued to act like she's a good mom. Your sister sounds like the type who weaponizes denial, the kind who will watch her kids suffer then rewrite reality so she's still the victim. The LOL, no I didn't text. That's crazy. The laughing denial when she's confronted with neglect is basically her signature move. Deflect, dismiss, and gaslight until everyone doubts their own sanity. And our next story. Entitled Landlord forged my husband's signature on a contract. My husband and I have been renting this place for a while, and from day one our landlord, let's call him Martin, has been a lazy, greedy control freak. The kind of guy who brags about being a responsible property owner but can't be bothered to fix a broken fan or return a call. At first it was the usual stuff. Promises to fix the bathroom vent? Ignored. The leaky window that turned our living room into a rainforest every time it rained? Still leaking. But things took a turn from annoying to outright criminal this past winter. Every year a maintenance guy from some heating company would show up out of nowhere to service the unit. No call, no warning, no schedule. One minute I'd be drinking coffee, the next there's a stranger on my porch asking to come inside. We later learned why. The company called Martin to schedule, and he just picked whatever date worked for him, not us. And then came the bills. We started getting invoices for hundreds of dollars, work we never requested, for a system we didn't own. When I confronted Martin, he insisted it was tenant responsibility. My husband, trying to keep things civil, paid the first one, then another came and another. By the third, I'd had enough. I told Martin flat out I wasn't paying another dime. He dodged, lied, and claimed it was in our contract. There was no such clause, so I called a lawyer. The lawyer confirmed everything Martin was doing. The surprise maintenance, the charges, the harassment was illegal. When Martin found out I'd spoken to an attorney, he lost his mind. He showed up at my husband's job screaming about how we were ungrateful tenants and that no one else would put up with our attitude. My husband calmly recorded the entire meltdown, including Martin yelling, "If a lawyer says so, fine, I'll pay you back." That recording became our golden ticket. We gave Martin 1 week to refund the charges. Instead, he emailed us a contract supposedly signed by my husband authorizing all those maintenance costs. Problem, the signature looked like a toddler's art project. My husband hadn't signed a thing. We compared it to his real signature, and it wasn't even close. The font in the document didn't match, the ink color was different, and the date said 2023, but the company confirmed no maintenance had been done that year. They also confirmed Martin himself had the master contract, not us. He forged it. That smug, corner-cutting landlord had actually forged my husband's signature to cover his own butt. I could almost hear Judge Judy yelling, "You done messed up," in the distance. We filed a police report the next morning. We had everything, the fake document, the emails, the recording of his confession. The officer didn't even hesitate. "Yeah," he said, "this is forgery and harassment." They opened an investigation immediately. 2 days later, Martin showed up at my husband's workplace again, trying to gaslight him, insisting he must have forgotten signing it. My husband laughed right in his face and said, "So I signed something in 2023, but you only show it to me in 2025? Sure, Martin." After that, things went quiet. Then last week, we got a call from the police investigator. The case had wrapped up, and Martin was officially charged with forgery, fraud, and harassment. Apparently, he'd done the same thing to other tenants in his properties, forging their names on fake service contracts, overbilling them, even creating phony maintenance receipts to pad his taxes. He was fined thousands for falsifying legal documents, and because he harassed us at my husband's workplace twice, there's a restraining order in place now, too. Our rent payments now go to a court-appointed property manager while the case against him unfolds. The last update we got, Martin was arrested after refusing to comply with the court order to hand over his property records. Now he's the one dealing with paperwork. Police paperwork. And now we're apartment hunting somewhere with no shared walls, no sneaky landlords, and definitely no forged signatures. And our next story. The corporation got its comeuppance. I changed the names and tweaked the location so they can't sue me, per our agreement, but the core of the story is the same. My name is Mark Reed, and I'm that oddball who spent his whole life paying taxes on time and, in return, got a corporate parking lot on my own land. The American dream, you say? All right, let's roll. The letter from the Travis County Appraisal District arrived on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday when you're planning to sell the old house outside Austin and turn the page. I open the assessment and see that, on paper, my parcel suddenly has an asphalt road and a parking lot. The valuation about what you'd pay for a small airport. I wasn't even offended. If someone built infrastructure on my place, why not go take a look? I drive over and find a little candy from Riverside Dynamics, black asphalt, stainless bollards, signs reading executive parking only, and my oak trees casting such a lovely shade over their Teslas, you'd think the PR department asked nature to feel more premium. My old dirt driveway delicately converted into the grandest entrance to their KPI paradise. Honestly, I just sighed. I called the development office politely. You know, that naive moment when you still believe grown-ups can say, sorry. On the line, Daniel Whitaker, director of capital construction. His voice was even and corporate, the front page of a quarterly report. Yes, he says, there was a small overlap, a technical error. Don't make a thing of it. Our company has 500,000 angry lawyers, and if you want to play, you'll end up with nothing. That's the point where respectable people loosen their ties. I just smiled. I've always liked simple rules. If you take something, return it or pay for it. But apparently at Riverside Dynamics, corporate ethics means your problem becomes mine. I said, all right, we'll play by the rules, and hung up. The next morning, I brought in Harvey Cole, a licensed surveyor. Harvey's like an X-ray for lies. He pulled the 1978 plats, dug up the corner boundary monument, shot the site, and carved their dreams up with a laser. The result was clear. 27 yards of my private land were their executive lot C and the main road to it. Perfect. I sent a demand letter, cease use with options to purchase or lease short term. The reply was corporate boilerplate. Your message is, of course, important to us. Please contact our attorneys. Well, if it's important to you, I'll make it even more important. I brought in steel posts, a gate arm, cameras, a payment terminal, and a sign in front even autopilot managers can read. Private property, daily parking fee, $100, non-payment equals towing. A modest price for forgetting to say good morning before paving my dirt. Monday, 8:15 a.m. The executive motorcade rolls up to their lot and meets my gate. You should have seen those faces, a blend of surprise and that corporate certainty that the world belongs to a badge. Security on radios, a jittery lawyer in a suit, everyone hunting for the magic button that says void private property. I calmly show the folder, boundary markers, deeds, a county extract, a copy of my notice. The process was simple. You pay, you enter. You don't, you take the long way around. No shouting, no humiliation, just reality without the corporate but. By lunchtime, the terminal had churned out a stack of receipts, a modest stream of passive income from corporate overconfidence. Meanwhile, Maeve Anderson, my Austin attorney, filed suit in Travis County District Court. Trespass, unjust use, and occupancy, survey costs, attorney's fees, the full set for companies that build faster than they think. Riverside Dynamics replied predictably, county error, public necessity, something about estoppel. I like legal words too, especially when they sound like excuses instead of apologies. Then discovery began. That's when the corporate magic dissipated. Internal emails where engineers twice warned Whitaker about a possible 20 to 30-yard encroachment onto a private lot. The director's response, proceed, deadline's closer, we'll fix it later. So my ground was their plan later. I love later, especially when later shows up in court on a giant screen. At the hearing, Maeve laid it out frame by frame. The old boundary monument, a red property line, a blue blob for their parking, screenshots of the internal correspondence, a total absence of agreements, easements, any sign that anyone in that building had ever met the word permission. I sat there thinking how easy it is for people to wipe their feet on what isn't theirs when they're busy applauding themselves for efficiency. While the case crawled along, my gate arm worked daily. The company ran shuttles from a remote lot, but habits are stubborn things. Funny discovery, even executives choose the shorter path. If it's cheaper than their time and more expensive than their pride, they paid in silence. It's nice when angry lawyers suddenly become cashless payments. The judgment was beautiful in its simplicity. Riverside Dynamics had unlawfully occupied private land. Total award, $900,000, fair market rent for the past period, trespass damages, my survey, and legal costs, plus a choice, purchase the strip at appraised value or remove the pavement and restore the landscape to county standards. In other words, folks, either pay for the road or grab your shovels. Badges won't help. Inside the company, corporate conscience stirred in the form of a personal order. Daniel Whitaker was reassigned with a demotion to one of those places where big titles come with small offices and zero influence. Officially, reorganization. Unofficially, later caught up. I took down the gate only after the money cleared and we signed a temporary access agreement, just for a few months while they built a new entrance. I'll admit I no longer felt like selling the parcel. I liked the quiet after the storm, and the boundary stone Harvey cleaned and reset like a monument to common sense. A fine stone. A reminder that in a world of decks and synergies, a simple rule still works. This is mine. If anyone at Riverside Dynamics ever wants a motivational quote for the wall, I can offer one free of charge. Don't confuse someone else's land with your own deadline. And I'll add a line in small print, especially for directors with big signatures and short memories, because sometimes the barrier isn't on the road, it's in your head. He tried to hide his huge mistakes, but ended up hiding his huge office in exchange for a small one. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.